When you tune into ESPN or YouTube, you're likely to hear discussions about the top teams in the NBA, such as the Boston Celtics, Dallas Mavericks, and OKC Thunder. However, today I want to focus on the league's worst teams, exploring what's going wrong, whether they should be struggling this much, and what changes they could implement to improve in the future, ensuring they are not featured in the same discussion a year from now. Let's begin with the Washington Wizards. Yes, this team deserves their current position at the bottom, but they're almost making history for their poor performance. At the time of this recording, they hold a record of 3 wins and 21 losses, sitting at the very bottom of the Eastern Conference. They resemble last season's Detroit Pistons, who nearly faced a record-setting losing streak after tying the 76ers with 28 consecutive losses. The Wizards are currently at the bottom of the NBA for offensive ratings, ranking 29th in defensive ratings, and dead last, 30th out of 30, in net rating, with a net rating of -15. It's a tough situation for Wizards fans. I attended a game last year against the Knicks, and the crowd overwhelmingly supported the Knicks. This expected poor performance comes after the team traded away Bradley Beal a few off-seasons ago to initiate a rebuild that they likely should have launched back in 2019, the same year they selected Rui Hachimura in the draft, where they opted for the 9th pick. In 2020, they had the overall pick and selected Deni Avdija in 2021, pairing him with Russell Westbrook. They made it to the play-in tournament and advanced to the playoffs, where they were eliminated by Philadelphia in the first round. In the first round of the next draft, they picked Corey Kispert, followed by Johnny Davis, who turned out to be a bust in 2022. On draft night in 2023, they traded with Indiana to select Bilal Coulibaly, and most recently chose Alexander with the 2nd overall pick. Consequently, they have consistently been among the top 10 selections for quite a while now, and this year they are expected to land a top 5 pick. I predict the Wizards will end the season with the worst record in the NBA, with the New Orleans Pelicans being the only team currently close to them. As the Pelicans get healthier, they will likely secure more wins compared to the Wizards. With veterans like Malcolm Brogdon and Jonas Valanciunas on their roster, some of these players might be on the trading block at this year's deadline. Kuzma could serve as a significant trade asset, and I believe he won't demand a high price because he isn't an elite defender or a three-point shooter. Yet he is a competent scorer that teams might acquire without giving up too much in hopes of deep playoff runs. Malcolm Brogdon, earning $22 million, could be an attractive trading option, but his substantial salary might make him more likely to be considered for a buyout. Additionally, Jonas Valanciunas, who earns about $10 million annually, could also emerge as a sought-after trade target. They can move Jordan P.A. this year while primarily developing the young core of Ball Kabali, including their 2nd overall pick Alex Sar, Bob Carrington from the Deni Avdija trade, and Keeson George, a late first-round selection. They are eager to evaluate Corey Kispert, who received an extension in the offseason. They decided to retain Brian Keefe as their head coach, and I believe he is capable of guiding this team through the rebuilding phase and securing wins right now. As for Bo, expect some ups and downs, considering he's only 20, but he remains a key player until the 2025 draft. If they manage to acquire a talent like Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper, that could reshape the team's foundation. Thus, for the Wizards, this year might not be enjoyable, but the hope is to see positive developments from the young core while wishing for luck in the 2025 draft lottery. I anticipate the Wizards will likely rank among the worst teams in the NBA this season, but next year could bring an exciting young core, potential trade success, and possibly signal a revival for DC basketball. However, it's no surprise at this stage, the next team I want to discuss was expected to contend for the play-in tournament, which is still a possibility, but they have faced significant injury troubles. I've likened the Wizards to last season's Pistons. This year, the new 2025 Pelicans are quite similar to the 2024 Memphis Grizzlies. The Pelicans made the playoffs last season, notably without Zion Williamson, who was injured during the play-in tournament. Currently, the Pelicans rank 29th in offense, 28th in defense, and 29th in net rating. They've faced injuries to Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, C.J. McCollum, Jordan Hawkins, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, Jose Alvarado, and DeAndre Murray. This team has really been struck by the injury bug, making them one of the unluckiest teams this season alongside the Philadelphia 76ers. However, their first-round pick, Emoni Bates, has displayed some promising qualities as a rim runner and rim protector. I can see parallels between this year's Pelicans and last year's Grizzlies, suggesting it could end up being a blessing in disguise. Last year, Memphis benefited from gaining experience with Gigi Jackson, Vince Williams, and Scottie Pippen Jr. due to their injuries and ultimately secured Zach at the 9th overall pick. While the Pelicans traded away their Lakers' first-round pick in the DeAndre Murray trade, DeAndre isn't the reason for their struggles. It's mainly due to the injuries. Nonetheless, they retain their first-round pick, suggesting this team could become increasingly exciting. If they strike it lucky in the 2025 lottery like they did in the 2019 lottery with Zion, they could potentially add either a Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey, or Dylan Harper to this roster, maybe even an Ager Demons or Kaspar Shanis. However, I believe this team faces bigger challenges than last year's Grizzlies, since you might argue that their best player, Brandon Ingram, will be a free agent at the end of the season. This squad, situated in a highly competitive Western Conference, likely won't even come close to the play-in tournament, which is somewhat disheartening given their preseason hopes. So, will they retain Brandon Ingram? It seems unlikely, signaling a possible trade, as they cannot afford to let him hit the open market in the offseason and risk losing him without compensation. Zion Williamson, who enjoyed his healthiest and most successful season last year, is already dealing with injuries this year. Moreover, there's a clause in Zion's contract allowing them to cut him without any future obligations for the max deal they signed a couple of seasons prior. Thus, the Pelicans could become a compelling team whether or not they decide to make a significant move. CJ McCollum has 2 years remaining on his contract, and I believe they should gauge the market for CJ Ingram and Zion. Although it might be undesirable, they must assess what other teams are willing to offer. The Pelicans may undertake a large trade involving Ingram, McCollum, or Zion, while possibly reshuffling their front office. It's uncertain whether this will be David Griffin's final year as the Pelicans president. This will mark Willie Green's 4th year with the team, and the franchise has yet to secure a playoff series victory since the departure of Anthony Davis. I believe the Pelicans might be preparing for a significant move as they look ahead to 2025. With a younger core, a revitalized atmosphere, and hopefully a healthier season, they could certainly make a playoff return. Shifting focus to the Western Conference, let's discuss the Utah Jazz. I wonder if they regret not trading Lauri Markkanen during the offseason. They certainly don't regret not trading him to the Warriors for Brandon Poole, who is having a terrible season so far. However, they might have wished to sell high on Markkanen if a team had approached them with multiple unprotected first-round picks. His value may have declined somewhat since signing the max contract, and this season he hasn't shown the same form as the previous 2 seasons in Utah. Currently, the Jazz sit at 5-19, ranking 22 and for offensive rating, dead last in defensive rating, and 28th the overall in net rating across the NBA. If not for the Pelicans' injury woes, the Jazz would undoubtedly be the weakest team in the Western Conference. They appear to be in a similar situation to the Washington Wizards, as they've been in a rebuilding phase since trading away Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert in 2022. They never truly hit rock bottom. Instead, they secured the 9th overall pick in the 2023 draft to select Taylor Hendricks and the 10th overall pick last year to choose Cody Williams. Since trading away their 2 top players, they haven't had a premier draft pick, but that could change this year, and I anticipate they will be proactive at the deadline. John Collins is experiencing the best season of his career since 2019 and has a $26 million player option for next year, but I believe they could definitely trade him for something valuable this year. The same applies to Jordan Clarkson. While it might not be significant value, it's better than nothing. Collins could likely bring back a decent return. They should explore trading everyone besides Lauri Markkanen and the young prospects, including Taylor Hendricks, despite his injury, Cody Williams, Sensabaugh, and Dion George. I wouldn't trade Walker Kessler, as he should be a foundational piece to build around, alongside Markkanen in their front court. They have a capable head coach in Will Hardy and an effective general manager. And Danny, you have an owner who is eager to spend and ultimately seek victory, There's a significant amount of draft capital from previous trades, and you're likely to accumulate even more draft assets if you deal some veterans this year. They also hold most of their future first-round picks, and this team could eventually have ample cap space. Plus, there's a chance to hit a lottery jackpot. This is precisely the position the Jazz should be in, although it may lead to tough viewing. Particularly if they offload veterans, it's essential to witness consistent performances from players like Kone George or other young talents if they intend to build effectively. Utah needs front-end draft capital. Currently, it's vital for them to lose games, which could enable them to secure a franchise-altering talent in the upcoming NBA draft and likely in the 2026 draft as well. Shifting focus back to the Eastern Conference, let's discuss the Toronto Raptors, who rank 24th in the NBA for net rating, 24th in defense, and 21st offensive rating. The Raptors boast a solid young core, among the best we've highlighted in this discussion, led by Scottie Barnes. Unfortunately, Scottie has experienced a few injuries this year, which might benefit the Raptors in their strategic tank. R.J. Barrett has displayed borderline all-star talent this season and has a reasonable sample with the Raptors, having played 55 games since last year's trade while averaging about 22 points. 5 assists, 6.5 rebounds tonight on good efficiency, something that RJ struggled with while with the Knicks and at Duke. He shot 50% from the field and 37% from three. With the way contracts are evolving in the NBA, RJ Barrett actually has a solid deal. Jakob Poeltl is having a career year. If they retain him as their center after the season, or trade him at the deadline while his value is high, that could be beneficial. Grady Dick started strong this season, but has cooled down recently. However, I believe he could become a significant player when the Raptors eventually contend for playoffs in a weak Eastern Conference, which could happen as early as next year. Emmanuel quickly has had health issues this season, appearing in only 3 games for the Raptors, but I still have strong confidence in him to be a good combo guard for this team moving forward. You're seeing positive development from rookies like Jacoby Walter, Jonathan Mogbo, and Jamal Sheed, especially in terms of defense from Shed and Mogbo. They have a respectable coach in Darko Rajakovic and a capable GM/president in Masai Ujiri. As I mentioned, this team could be executing an ethical tank this year, which might be rewarded by the lottery. Imagine the impact of adding a top-tier talent to this Raptors squad going forward. They could be the surprise playoff team next year, similar to the buzz surrounding the Orlando Magic, Houston Rockets, and OKC Thunder in recent seasons. That could be the Toronto Raptors in 2026 if this group continues to develop and they manage to secure a top 3 pick in a promising 2025 draft. Now, let's return to the Western Conference and discuss the Portland Trail Blazers, a team currently ranked 27th in the NBA based on net rating, 25th in defensive rating, and 28th in offensive rating. The Blazers are struggling again, sitting at 8-18, positioned 13th in the Western Conference, and they'll be competing with the Utah Jazz for the worst record in the West. I anticipate they will seek to make trades as well, but it may prove a bit challenging for Portland given that several of their veterans, such as DeAndre Ayton and Jeremy Grant, have high salaries, along with Anthony Simons, who, while not a veteran, still demands considerable funds to match. Salaries during potential trades? Jeremy Grant isn't improving his trade value this season. He's on an unfavorable contract, averaging 16 points and this moment. Charlotte simply isn't strong enough to qualify for those national games, so that's my take. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked the content style. I would greatly appreciate it. Share your thoughts on some of the least successful teams in the NBA in the comments below. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.